So, Pete, we've talked about how sometimes low mood can be useful, but also sometimes the system gets stuck in a low mood even though the environment's pretty good.
Yeah.
Is that just because people's brains are miswired or for some other reason?
Well, we've actually built models of this where we assume that the amount of information that the individual receives depends upon the action they take. So if you get an individual that's, for want of a better word, depressed, or they're not tending to go out into the world much, then their rate of information update about the world is slower than individuals that are going out into the world and keep exploring and so on.
So in addition to saving energy and the like, they're just not getting more information.
That's right.
Because they're staying at home.
Yes. And then what you find is that if you assume that, again, that the world at any one time is a relatively good state or a relatively bad state for going out into the world, then just kind of probabilistically, you will get some proportion of the population that has gone out into the world, discovered, oh, at the moment it's bad, and they'll go back inside and they will wait for a while before going back out into the world.
So here's a practical example. After the last terrible recession, a lot of people tried to apply for jobs. And they went out and applied for 6 or 7 or 8 jobs and got turned down for all of them.
Yeah.
And they concluded it was them.
Yes, that's a very grim example and an important one.
This is kind of what we're talking about, though. They're sampling, and at some point they just stay home and don't even answer the email, even when the economy is improving.
Yes, and arguably the really destructive part is if they then stop trying for a while and then try again and get another failure, because that suggests that this is ongoing for a long, long time.
That's a signal that the environment is stably bad.
It's stably bad, and so then people just lock themselves away.
Now, an interesting angle on this I've thought of, Pete, is that if it really is stably bad, there's no point in being depressed. I mean, if the net payoff is negative, but it seems to me there's a certain what the hell moment where, if things are stable and getting better, there's no point in having good mood because it's going to be better later. You don't have to rush around getting resources. If things are steadily getting worse, you shouldn't stay home. You should do whatever you can right now.
That's very good thinking, and I completely agree.
Okay.
I do completely agree.
It's paradoxical,
It seems like a paradox. Of course, that final step of, I think the world's bad, but I have to get on with it, that's the desperate measure.
That's right.
And of course, in some situations, people take those desperate measures and actually things work out for them. They've taken a big risk, they've tried for something and succeeded, and then they ramp upwards. But in other situations, they get more and more desperate and take actions that are less and less likely to actually succeed because they're now taking this short-term view. And that can be very destructive.
So in psychiatry, there's what's called a kindling model, where they talk about repeated episodes of depression make it more likely you'll have future episodes of depression.
Yeah.
And I think this could reflect exactly what you're talking about, because if you repeatedly sample the world and it isn't paying off, it might be worthwhile to have the brain reset to be less likely to think that the things are good. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's the trajectory of these circumstances.
Yeah.
I mean, bad things that are getting worse, there's no point in just moping around. Do what you can now.
Yeah.
And paradoxically, when you know things are going to be getting better, you don't have to have that happy,
Absolutely. You can just, you can ride it out because it's improving.
It's short-term opportunities that should spur your mood upwards.
Yes.
Not longer-term ones.
Yes.